rain coming through. We expect rain soon. Rain is close. The session has been declared wet. No sign of this rain stopping. Rain is clearing up. Rain should be gone for now. Nothing but sunshine all day.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good morning, good evening, afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round 2 of the HPR Imsa series right here at the beautiful circuit of Long Beach. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box, we've got Brian Zinn, and on cameras, Rob Campbell, going and giving us all the shots, brought to you by Track Cams Gourmet. And what a time to be alive. Multi-class racing and Long Beach, 2 of the best points of the iRacing service. Brian, what do you think about this incredible circuit, and that we're going to be battling out with quite a number of cars on a very, very tight circuit?
Yeah, absolutely. Long Beach is a fantastic track. Some would say that it's America's Monaco, and for a track storied in history, our drivers are going to look to write their names in the continuing evolution that is the Long Beach Grand Prix here tonight. You've got 11 turns winding around the streets of Long Beach, California, earmarked by some famous turns like the Fountain, the Queen's Hairpin, and of course that long run down the front straightaway. But multi-class adds a unique dynamic. You're not just battling the concrete walls, you're battling several other drivers around you and multi-class, so you've got drastic differences in speed between those. You've got GT3, LMP2, and the top class of GTP here tonight.
With that being said, we've also got prizes on the line for the winners, starting with Hymo. If you want to get any of your best setups that can put you up on the top and used by professionals, Hymo has you sorted out. And also, each race winner will get a 1-month free subscription to Hymo, which is absolutely incredible. And there's a 1-year Hymo subscription at the end of the season, random draw. So long as you're in it to win it, Hymo has got you covered. Plus, we have got so much more than just that, as we've got Monster Designs going and giving custom liveries to the cars and making them look absolutely amazing. If you want striking liveries that will separate you from the pack, Monster Designs has you covered. And there's livery giveaways done throughout the entire season, so expect to see a couple of cars looking a little bit more fresh as our season continues. And also, we've got admin box for any of your admin needs. If you're race control or if you're going and taking part as commentary, admin box has you covered. With a push of a button, you have all the iRacing commands at your fingertips, and absolutely wonderful to have those type of products lurking around, making life easier for, well, in the background. That being said, the HPR Imsa series, this is round 2 as our drivers are making their way for qualifying. Daniel Pino out in the waifu car. Good to see him back out there again. And from High Point Racing, going and showing off, I would say, the most unique of the cars out on circuit. But it's always one that has drawn attention of, okay, we need to see this get to the top. And many people shouting, "Go Senpai."
Absolutely, just a fantastic looking livery. And as our GT drivers wrap up their qualifying and our prototype drivers start making their way out onto the track, we've got some provisional times that we can run through, starting with our GTD Pro field. Looks like we've got Avery Hart and his Porsche sitting on provisional pole, followed by Daniel Pino in that waifu, fantastic looking livery car. And then we got Frederic Caliello, apologies if I'm butchering that, rounding out top 3 in GTD Pro. And who we got over GTD right now?
Well, we've got Noah Sohaus along with Matthew Knoll, the 2 Mercedes going and rocking at the top. Matlos Rooster going in 3rd, and unfortunately we do have a spinner behind Jason Blaine, who could have seen that in the review mirror and looking rather comfy with a VR headset. So I've got to say, Pimax, and you've got a direct drive, what better way to go and take on the streets of Long Beach? But with our prototypes out on circuit, we've got 2 classes of prototypes, our LMP2s and our hypercars. Jace Larson is one of our hypercars, looking to be right at the top. Now, I've got to ask you a question, Brian. Have you taken any of these cars around Long Beach? I know I've tried with Indy cars, with GT3 cars, tried with the LMP3, but anything bigger has got me a little bit nervous, and second gear is my best friend.
I've actually taken all 3 of these classes around here before, and as we ride on board with Jace Larson, rocking the real-life accurate livery, the Apple Music livery that they ran in real life at the Long Beach Grand Prix this year. But yeah, fantastic experience pounding around the streets of Long Beach in any class, whether it's GT3, LMP2, or GTP. It's just such a rush. You know, you're really battling the track, I would argue, more than you are other drivers. You have to really make sure that you don't end up tapping a wall and bending a piece of suspension or getting wheel damage around here. And so just fantastic driving. It's such a rewarding lap when you really get it right, finding every little inch that you can eke out of the car. And I know, especially for LMP2 in the current configuration, you can actually no stop it, as I did earlier this season. You can fuel save enough to not have to make a pit stop in the 45-minute official races. So not going to be the case tonight. For one, it's an hour-long race, but second of all, they're capped 60% fuel, so we will see pit stops, unfortunately.
Well, it's going to be a great one, and it also allows for a bit of strategy to come in. That landed up being the case in round 1, where drivers had to really think outside the box of how they're going to jump ahead of the pack and who's going to be able to move forward. So let's take a look at what happened and look at the points of our championship thus far. For the LDMH, it's Landon Stewart along with Adrian Pabello, Adolf Perez, Andres Quavedo, and Gerard McKee rounding out our top 5 in the LDMH. How's it look for the LMP2?
Yeah, LMP2, we got Ryan Anderson currently sitting at the top of the standings, followed behind by Jan Barrios and Jason Ballin, followed by Cruz Ruiz and Andrew Bruce.
For our GTD Pro, it was Daniel Pino going and getting the upper hand on Avery Hart for the last lap. Federico Callio holds on for third, with Matsev Kutsev in fourth, and in fifth place is Jacob Grubb.
And in GTD, rounding out our championship, provisionally leading that championship is Curtis Poliso, followed by Glass and Matthew Knoll, and then you got Brandon Dittmer and Gavin Cambray rounding out your top 5.
And this is round 2 on the calendar, as the next round on May 21st, we head out to Spa Francorchamps, so away from the tights and twisties. We head out to a circuit that's, well, is going to be a lot of fun if you enjoy high-speed runs. However, here at Long Beach, it is insanely quick, but it's also very, very unforgiving, as we know, especially for our multi-class racing. It's going to come down to patience for every single one of our drivers. For the LMP2s and hypercars, they've got to be patient with the GT3s. But we've also got to talk about, off the start, the GT3s have a far better braking experience to get into a corner compared to both our prototypes. So it'll be right into the rear suspension of these cars before they can pull away. And that also can lead to a little bit of a problem as you get tangled up in a little bit of a dance. Unfortunately, some go for ballet, some go for tango, and you're just trying to figure out which way is the right way to do the Macarena.
Yeah, I was going to say, he ends up doing the salsa at the end of the day. But yeah, right off the bat, you've got a tight hairpin that you have to navigate before you even get to the green flag. And then that first sector is just tight and twisty as you work your way around the fitness fountain turns. And if you survive all that, well, then you still got 6 or 7 more turns of 90 degrees to battle it out. And that's just the completion of one lap. And you got an hour of pounding around doing that lap after lap. So definitely a challenge ahead for our drivers. A very strong, very big field. So expect a lot of chaos and a lot of traffic management in addition to your fuel and tire management.
Well, I went and actually took a HIMO setup on the circuit to feel it out, and I thought, okay, is there going to be lots of aero on the car? But I was quite surprised. A lot of drivers relying more on the mechanical grip just because of the fast straightaways. The wings are slightly set to give you some bit of support, but makes things rather tricky. But at the moment, the drivers showing off what they can do. Lakewood Shaw is leading out the LMP2 class with Ryan Anderson in second place. Colatruz Padala holds on for third in the LMP2 class, as we got Lakewood Shaw barreling into T1, more and more comfortable. And this is just mechanical grip on the way through, no aero to back him up. And it was a bit of an interesting setup, but it made me feel so confident in the cars. For one that really enjoys going and having a bit of a stable rear end, the HIMOs were a little bit easier to drive on here. Jace Larson is leading out our LMDH in the Porsche, but it's Landon Stewart who currently holds on to second in the Acura. The only reason he's gone and picked the Acura, he wanted to be a little bit different from the field, and he's holding on second place with Christian Roos out in the BMW. The Whale Shark still out at the top. And we have both our Cadillacs joining down in 8th and 9th position with Nigel Langley and Wig Santiago.
Yeah, slightly different than what we saw in practice. It was Porsche 1 through 5, if I recall correctly, but certainly here in qualifying, the Acura and the BMW showing that they have the pace, at least in one lap form, to hang with the Porsches and even beat quite a few of them, as they're provisionally a second and third while I say that. And Andres Corvedo just went provisional P2 to separate the BMW and Acura off of the podium. But definitely an interesting dynamic that we have. The LMP2s, I think, will be a little bit easier to navigate around here. They are slightly smaller than our LMDHs. But going back to your points about setup, you definitely will want to prioritize mechanical grip, and the downforce will really be handy when you get into braking advantages over another car, as you do have several high braking points around the track, namely going down into turn 1, as well as going into turn 6, I believe, the first of the left-handed 90 degrees.
Once you've got to hold your breath to make it work, and you can take a look at a bit of a formula setup. So we see Jason Blaine set up with Pimax. He's got his Fanatec all set up and, well, enjoying life at the moment in a great run. I've got to say, a little bit jealous. And then a little bit more contemporary to our general rigs. We've got Landon Stewart, who is out going and having a bit of fun. And it's wonderful to have our driver cams get to see behind the visor, behind the windscreen, and get to see the driver, what they've got, what they're doing, how they're concentrating. And you can always see the amount of focus that's needed, looking 3 corners ahead and hoping that they're not going to be seeing 2 corners and then the 3rd corner is a wall. So it's going to be an interesting one, and a massive thank you to those that do have driver cams. But with our drivers giving it everything again, Carlos Ruiz Padella now makes his way up towards the starting line, and Chris Newman as well. Both drivers trying to give it that extra little bit. But so far, we're starting to see a bit of a problem coming in. Nicholas Lancers is doing the same time as our GT3s, and there is a number of cars that haven't done qualifying laps, or they haven't been able to get a valid one in for our LMP2s. All our, well, bar our 2 LDMHs, where we've got Jamie Persilla and Brandon, that's Daniel Bequero, who have not been able to get a time a little bit closer to their LDMH. There's the BMW. Christian Ruiz now out in 3rd place, trying to give it one hard push to see if he can move up onto the front row, or is it going to be a 1-2 for the Porsches for qualifying? Check flags waving. Christian comes across the line, did a 112.844, slower than his personal best of a 112.5. And man, oh man, on a circuit that is cloudy, it's warm, it's 23.8 degrees. It's actually quite nice to drive around. Unfortunately, not able to go and break the Porsche pace, and we'll have to see how that plays off during the course of the race. Not necessarily being the one in front of the pack is going to be the best to run, but you do have the option of slipstreaming, especially at the start of the race. As our qualifying coming to an end, all our drivers now starting to make their way back to the pits. 60-minute sprint race here at Long Beach, and it is going to be round 2 of our IMSA series. Brian, I'm looking forward to this. I love street circuits with a passion, but it's also a love-hate relationship. I love them, they hate me, and now we get to see multi-class action.
Yeah, absolutely. If qualifying was any indication, the action on track is going to be very hot, hotter than the air temp, I imagine, as we're waiting for our drivers to wrap up qualifying and get the race session started, and we'll start cycling through our starting grid here in a moment's time.
And for everyone out in the virtual grandstands, a massive welcome to Racer Nexus, massive welcome to the HPR IMSA Championship. And we are looking forward to it. So we got Adrian, Pablo, and Jace Larson, Christian Ruiz, Andreas Quivido, Landon Stewart, who won at Daytona, and Adolf Perez in P6, Tim Keane in P7, along with Nigel Langley, Corey Patton, and Daniel Bequero rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, starting at P11, we're going to find our Wig Centerio next to Jamie Placinia. And then we switch over to our LMP2 class, and our pole sitter is Carlos Ruiz Padilla. Lining up outside him will be Ryan Anderson. On row 2 and P2 will be Lincoln Shaw and Andrew Bruce. And behind them will be Chris Nauman, Jason Lane, Kenneth Cloden, and Avery Hart is our GTD Pro pole sitter.
A little bit further down, it's Daniel Pino in 21st with Nicholas Lanza, who's going to be starting back of class. Federico Callio, along with Aldo Seklin, Matsev Kutsev, Ryan Frankenberry, Noah Saus in the Mario colors, Eric Hammond Luca Tossi, and Matthew Knoll rounding out in P30.
Yeah, P31, we find Matt Loss Rodster for Daniel Neiman Racing in his Porsche next to Curtis Poliso. P33, we find Donald Ingram Jr. next to the Castrol McLaren of Jacob Grube. P35 is Alex Kaiforcian next to Carlos Sierra, followed by Liam Habul, Gonzalo Abascal, Gavin Cambray, and John Weinrich.
And rounding out the rest of our field, it's Cisco Rodriguez, Todd Skilton, Andrew Davis, Jamie Placena, along with Rob Campbell is actually just our cameraman. He's there as a sitter. Donald Powell, along with Scott Farrell, Andrew Vaught, Brandon Demitter, and Edward Deland in P50. So the driver's now taking off, and I do think Rob Campbell has got mechanical failure, so he's going to be working the cameras instead. Brian, what can we expect? Multi-class action around a very tight circuit, and you've got incredible drivers out here to go and battle it out. I mean, some of the best in the world lining up on the line for 1 hour's worth of racing, and to really show what they can do with HP, with our LMDHs, our LMP2s, and GT3s, all very, very competitive in times.
Yeah, absolutely. 49 cars around the streets of Long Beach will make for a chaotic race, and our drivers will have to show how they excel at patience to be able to survive this race. And that is the name of the game. You have to survive. There is an old adage in racing that to finish first, you have to first finish. So there is no point in making a dodgy move or a low percentage move, especially on lap one. As we see our drivers navigate through the tight hairpin, they will get stacked up, and the field will fall into the hands of Adrian Puet. As we see Barney and the flagman holding green.
Waiting to go, waiting to go. Drivers at the ready. Our LMDHs going to be getting off the line in due course. And away we go racing, charging off with our LMDHs as everyone try to move forward. Adrian trying to keep the lead, but it's Jace Lawson who goes up into first. But can he hold it into the left-hander? Late on the anchors, cold tires, cold brakes as the two Porsches duke it out. Now navigating their way through. Landon Stewart in the Acura, holding on to third place, and he has got Christian Roos behind him. Our LMP2s charge off the line. Jan Santiago out in the Barbie car, going and leading the charge. Let's go, Barbie, as he keeps a solid run. Avery Hart gets a jump on the field and is absolutely running away from our GTD Pro class and GTD, not holding back at all. Adrian up into first place, looks in the mirror, seeing life is getting a little bit more challenging behind him. Chase Lawson trying to keep the pressure on at the moment. You can see that left to right, trying to generate as much friction into the tires, heat them up as much as possible, get those ice blocks melted in a matter of seconds, because life's about to get very, very interesting as they go heading towards the sharp hairpin, heading onto our main straight. Legs on the brakes, bring it right to the curb, get on the power as early as you can. Right to the wall, and everyone trying to avoid giving it a kiss as they make their way down the main straight, completing their first lap. A clean start from all classes, but man, what a fast one.
Yeah, and Adrian, Jason, Landon, after one lap, have already gapped the rest of the LMDH field. As you can see, they're about 2.5 seconds between third and fourth, as it's a three-car battle for the lead right now. It'll be interesting to see how Landon gets on compared to the two Porsches. They make their power and make their lap time in two very different ways. As we see a little bit of a wheel spin moment there for Landon as he keeps the car corral but drops a few tenths back of the Apple Music livery Porsche in front of him. As we see Carlos Ruiz has got himself a meat ball flag, and that Cadillac has seen, or I'm sorry, LMP2 has seen much better days. Wheels are cambered in and completely missing a front bumper.
Jan Santiago also running into a bit of a problem, but Carlos just going and changing the camber. Little bit of a nose job, it just became a Michael Jackson job. Jan Santiago also trying to keep up the pace, getting a little bit squirrely under braking, and now getting hunted down. Oh, unfortunately, that was through the fountain, just lost the rear end and had to wait for the field to come through. That explains how he landed at the back, and now has got a lot of hard work in the LMP2 class. So drivers trying to move forward and see where they go, but it does look like Adrian Pabula going and having a little bit of internet connection issue, so a bit of a David Copperfield moment. Jace Larson sure as hell does not want to go and see that. He wants to rather see the car than guess where the car is. Landon Stewart, who won at Daytona right down to the wire, now looking to see if he can go and back it up. And once again, going to have to really push that Acura to its limit. The only Acura in the field, much like Daniel Briquero, the only Ferrari, and Christian Ruse is our only BMW. So everyone trying out something new and not trying to have a Porsche Cup at the front. Saw the Acura doing good. Oh, Carlos losing the car once again, trying to get it to the pits. And, well, I don't even think that it's got the right camber to handle ovals as he dives into pit lane to get that car sorted out. Hopefully not too quick.
Yeah, as we saw briefly there's a Mercedes that was also missing its nose. Certainly easy to do around here at Long Beach. One wrong move and a scrape on the wall and it will grab your bumper in payment. But Landon Stewart, he had that slight little wheel spin, dropped a little bit back of Jace Larson, but has easily made that time up there. And both of them are trying to run down the blinking 25 of Adrian and his Porsche. As you said, Jace Larson not going to be a fan of that, because it's much easier to race a car when you can see where it's at. But battle brewing here between Matt Rooster. So we see the 18 of Gonzalo Abscol has had a brief spin, but collects it up, kept it out of the wall. Well done. Dropped a few positions, but the car is still in one piece.
The parking lot's on the other side of the wall, unfortunately, so can't really park there. So Matt Lars Rooster having a little bit of a tough time in the DNR car, trying to get a little bit more pace as, a couple of GT3s going and kissing the wall, coming out of the hairpin. But I've got to now ask the very good question, because we've got a race that you will need to do a pit stop in. And Brian, the pit lane is one of the most complex things to get into on this circuit. Can you take us through of what is required not to hit the wall? I can tell you how to hit the wall, but how do you not hit the wall going into the pit lane?
Yeah, as we saw, there was a spinner back there. Not sure if that's the 50 of Donald Powell, who has picked up a meatball flag for his efforts. But pit lane at Long Beach, one of the longest pit roads on the service. It may be the longest, although Indianapolis may give a run for his money. As we see, the 50 of Donald Powell there has a broken right rear suspension. Has had a disagreement with a wall, I suspect, somewhere, but he is being able to limp that car back to the pits. Our drivers will be getting local yellows as he works his way through. But as for getting into the pits, there is a car and a half wide opening that you aim for, and you hope that you don't miss it and end up stuffing the left front into the end of the pit wall. But once you get through that little bit of a gap, the cones come up very quickly, and you have to make sure that you do not get a speeding penalty, because as I said, with it being such a long pit road, our drivers do not want to go down it any more than they have to. Having to go down and serve a drive-through for speeding will end anybody's hopes of a good race. As we see our prototype drivers already working through GT3 traffic, and we are only 6.5 minutes into this race.
This is going to be leaving, getting into pits lastminute.com, that's for certain. And as you pointed out, the LMDHs working their way through the traffic, and also our LMP2s not too far behind will be trying to pull themselves in a little bit closer. And Laken Short trying to move up. He's got Ryan Anderson ahead of him, trying to close down, and another meatball flag coming out. Liam Habul going and landing up with a bit of damage, and that is a very, very broken Porsche. Not exactly what you want to have, and I don't think Porsche's modification to the 992 is going to be appreciated. But as we see it,
yeah, the Porsche engineers in Weissach didn't spend all that time on an Evo kit just to have it reworked so soon. But unfortunately for Liam Abul, he has met the very stiff end of a concrete wall and rearranged the front end of his Porsche. As we see Tim Keen in his Porsche 963 in the Cadillac Whalen colors. Certainly looks good on the Porsche body there, as he's got a Cadillac behind him of Nigel Langley. As they work their way through the hairpin, they've got Andres Quevedo that they're trying to run down, who's making his way through GT3 traffic. And something I was talking about pre-race was fuel saving. In the official 45-minute races, in LMP2 at least, you can certainly no-stop this race. And as you can see, working into traffic so quickly in this race, it gives you a lot of time to lift and coast behind traffic, especially through the section after the fountain. You can't really make any passes there, so lifting and coasting, be able to do some fuel saving, that could be advantageous for some of our drivers if they are employing that strategy so early on. As we see a spinner there of John Weinrich in his Porsche.
Digging the nose on the way through. It's getting overtaken by some of our LMDH. Threw him out wide. Oh.
Yeah, it looks like he made some extra room for our overall race leader to come through and just misjudged where the bumps were on the outside of that corner there and found himself facing backwards for a period of time.
With a bit of damage to that front as well. But track's getting busy. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're in a GT3, your eyes go right into the rearview mirrors to try and see what's going on. Ryan currently leads out the LMP2 field. He's trying to slice through, finding some of our hypercars up ahead as it becomes a traffic jam into the hairpin. Unfortunately, one Mustang into the wall and just everyone having to come to a dead stop. This is getting rather busy for all classes, and our race leader's not wanting to have it. Brandon Dimitter down in 12th position in the GTD class, caught the wall and suddenly had a wall of prototypes coming at him, with Lakin Shaw managing to go by, but Brandon trying everything he can to close up to the Mercedes ahead of him of Gonzalo. And take a look at how tight the course is. There is no room to breathe. And once again, reiterating what you said earlier, it's all about patience, all about just biding your time and to get going. But the GT3's braking makes a huge difference to the prototypes, as you've got to try and get the drive out of the corners, because when you get into braking, well, the GT3s will outbrake the LMP2 class, the hypercars, also having to keep that well in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. For the LP2 drivers, are also facing the lack of power. Several seasons ago, iRacing reduced the power to match what the real-world cars are producing, and unfortunately that makes navigating GT3 traffic that much harder. As you said, when you have the higher braking performance out of our GT3 class that are challenging the prototypes in the brake zone, and you just don't have the power or the torque in LMP2 to be able to drive away from the GT cars. But yeah, coming out of the hairpin, that looked like the 405 on-ramp on a Friday afternoon in Los Angeles there, and except they're doing it at 110 miles an hour. High-speed chess maneuvers going on there as we see all three classes represented there.
It's absolutely incredible, and definitely an incredible action shot of Federico Callio getting a black flag, and that's because he's maxed out his incident points. You're allowed 15 incident points before you then get another drive through for every 10. So unfortunately, a couple of drivers going and experiencing not only the meatball flag, the technical flag that you see, the black flag with the orange dot, but also drive-through penalties starting to be issued out for just making up those incident points. Very easy to do. If you go sideways, it's 2. If you have car contact, it's 4. If somehow you manage to get an off track, it's 1. And on a track like this, off tracks are not very common, so it's generally you got the car a little sideways or got into a little bit of a bumper bash. Lakin Short trying to move his way up through the order. Oh, bit of contact on the rear against Andrew Bruce, who got turned around. Not going to be the happiest camper there. And both cars sustaining just that little bit of damage, but Andrew Bruce is going to be coming back at a rate of knots against Lakin Shaw, who's now trying to clear the GT3 field. And I'm sure we'll be watching his mirrors very, very closely to see where on earth Andrew Bruce is, and wonders if that send is going to be coming in his near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Lakin making a ill-calculated move there on the LMP2 of Andrew, as we see Jason Blaine dive into the pit lane there. He has got a very weary right front that will need some tending to by his pit crew there. But as you briefly saw on the picture-in-picture, Landon Stewart and his Acura has gotten around Jace Larson for second place in GTPs, but he has got a 2-second deficit I'm sorry, he does not have a 2-second deficit. He has a 1.1 second deficit that he is trying to run down for Adrian Pua for the overall lead.
A huge run for our LMDHs out on track that have been getting seriously busy out there. Then don't count out Perez in 4th place, catching up to Jace Lawson, trying to see if he can try and close down, and they are making their way through GT3 traffic, so having to be rather patient at the moment. This is where you go from racing your competitor to, all right, let's work through the traffic first, let's try and be kind here, and then focus on the attack, or you're going to land up boxing one another in. Have to lean on the side of caution for it.
Absolutely, you have to race your fellow class or slower class competitors first before you can really have a chance of racing your in-class competitors. But I'm curious if we can see what might have happened to Daniel Baquero and his Ferrari LMD or GTP, as he had been up 6 positions but is now showing back down in 10th and in pit lane. I'm not sure what maybe happened to him, maybe had a meatball flag or something else, but for Adrian Pua, he is enjoying the benefits of being the race leader. He can focus fully forward on managing traffic as he is behind the waifu Mercedes.
The High Point Racing waifu Mercedes, because Senpai says yes. And just got to say, it's a great one. So leading out the LMDH class is Adrian Pabilla, and leading out our LMP2s is Ryan Anderson. For our GTD Pro, it's Avery Hart, and leading out our GTD class, it's Noah South, who is currently at the sharp end of the field. But yet they're all starting to intermingle, and that's one thing that gets rather dangerous. Being in the faster car doesn't necessarily mean you're going to finish at the sharp end of the field, and we do have a couple of LMP2s and LMDHs now trying to slice their way through on the same lap as our GT3s. Making short, hoping to get a drive out of note. 44 minutes remain, and we're seeing a couple of drivers already starting with their pit stops. Some planned, some very unplanned, and now trying to see what's going to work out. And this is where I've got to lean into you, Brian. What is going to be the best option to dive into the pits? There's a big one coming in. Meatball flag for Jace Lawson. Jace Lawson, our 3rd place runner, into the pits. What on earth happened to Lawson? Jace trying to go that extra mile, really giving it everything he can. Did he land up losing the rear? He did. Oh. Huge impact. And that is him, unfortunately. Monster impact. Jan Santiago also landing up with a monster impact. That is our leading LMP2. Same problem. Locked it up and rear suspension gone. Turn 1 claiming 2 prototypes within a lap.
Ken's not going to be happy with that.
No, that's... Why not Ken? Why not Ken? Oh, man. That was an impact and a half. And that changes the entire run of this race, because now Christian Roos is up into 3rd place. Landon Stewart up into 2nd, and Adrian Pabula holds on to 1st, but a solid impact will be going and ricocheting through. And I wonder if everyone's taking a look at their relatives, seeing some of the bigger names falling down and subsequently hitting the wall. Is that little bit of fear, that little gremlin on the shoulder that tells you, listen, might want to take your foot off the gas a little bit, as we yet another one of our cars going in and losing out. Oh, just clipping the wall on the exit. John Wrench not having an easy time out there. And
yeah, John Weinrich running wide there. Looked like he was in front of P2 in class there. Fortunate he did not get collected in that. Broke the left front suspension, unfortunately for John. But I wanted to touch back on the time call out that you had earlier. There's still 42 minutes in this race, which means our drivers have only been circulating for 18 minutes. And these guys are driving like it's 5 minutes to go. They're working through traffic first and second time through, and they've been extremely aggressive. I'm monitoring race control, and there's been a couple of through penalties that have been handed out for incident responsibility. They do have live race control, and so there's just some very eager beavers on the racetrack as they're trying to work their way through traffic, and I think they're forgetting that this is an hour-long race.
Well, trying to go that extra mile, and a lot of the cars showing a bit of damage. They do have one fast repair to be able to use, but what a save from Chris Newman, going and sliding the car nearly to the wall, and I think also held his breath. But now it's got the GT3s all over the back of him, and that definitely shows the braking force. The GT3s are able to just get that little bit closer to you, and Todd going and lining himself up on the inside before the acceleration. But man, oh man.
Yeah, Todd Steelton is looking at Chris Nelman saying, really? You had to go and make me have some poo come out there as I try to avoid you not running into the wall. But good save from everybody involved. Maybe some frustrations will be exchanged after the race. Unfortunately, we don't have hand gestures inside the car in iRacing. Come on, let's get on that, really. But, as we see a spinning Ferrari there right in front of pit in. Not sure if he missed pit in originally and whipped a 180 to try and get back to it. We might have to take a replay on that one. Carlos Sierra there. Not to be confused with the smooth operator of Carlos Sainz.
I don't think it was a planned pit stop because there was a bumper lying on the outside. So I think it was a spin, bash. Oh, the pit lane's right here. Let me go and just get it repaired at the same time. What a way to do it. And unfortunately, a couple of drivers out of the race already. Jason Larson out of the run, Wiggs Santiago out of the race as well. As we jump on board with our lone Ferrari, Daniel Bequero trying to move it up through the order. Lucia Tosi going and trying to make a move up through the order. Since we're talking about Ferraris, let's see what happened to our GT3 through the fountain. Oh! Able to save it from the wall, but in a precarious position to try and reverse that car back. And if you haven't got a spotter, this is a nightmare to try and reverse out of and get yourself back on track. It's gentle by gentle, but this track is so busy. You're going to have an Austin Powers moment. So Lucia is able to get up and going. A little bit
almost had that. Almost had that.
They turn like trucks when they're at slow speed, the GT3s. However, Christian Ruiz now trying to slice his way up through the field, lying third in the LMDH class, does not want to lose any time. And right behind him, it's Adolf Perez all over the back of him, looking left, looking right, now trying to just see where exactly can he get past. And it's going to be on Christian to just hold his line. Don't get boxed in. A quick flash of light saying, listen, I'm coming through whether you like it or not. Stands on the power, late on the brakes, sends it down the inside. Can he keep it all together? A little brush against the wall, but Christian managing just to save it. Perez all over the back of him, hunting down. You can take a look how much they have to really crank the steering wheel around the hairpin. This is a massive battle for third, and what a battle it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Ruiz had a little scrape with the wall there coming through the final sector before the hairpin, but doesn't look like his Adolfo Perez says, I've seen enough of the back of that BMW, fires it down the inside going into turn one and says thank you very much. So you have to wonder if maybe there was some damage on the BMW of Christian Ruiz from his scrape on the wall there, as the Porsche kind of blew by him with relative ease going into the brake zone for turn one. As we got a battle shaping up for the race lead, Landon Stewart, he got around the Porsche of Jace Larson earlier in the race and set his sights to run down Adrian, and he has caught him.
Jace Larson unfortunately going and damaging his car and is out of the race. This allows Landon to look for a back-to-back victory, but it's gonna be a lot of hard work as Adrian is not gonna make it any easier. Stopping dead, slowing down on the apex, trying to knock the cars off cam, and the Porsche trying to get as fast as possible down the straight and has the run on the Acura, but it's going to come down to a little bit of traffic and also a little bit of know-how. Give it up for our back markers though, just minding out of the way, just saying, listen, I'm not going to fight you, please find your own way around me. and holding their line. The one thing about the blue flag, it is a information flag. You hold your racing line, you manage to give the position to the faster car when it's safe to do so, and be predictable. Don't fight into corners. Allow the faster car around. It is up to the faster car to get around you safely. Otherwise, they will get penalized. Every Hart out at the top end of our GTD Pro, not having too much of a problem. He's hoping to just keep it all together. He's got a good bit of gap to Daniel Pinot, who holds on 3 seconds back, but he's also trying to carve his way through traffic as he's got Carlos Sierra up ahead of him that came out of pits after a bit of rear end damage in the M&M car. And for every Hart, it's just going to be try clear through as quick as you can, not lose time, and get away from this car. Daniel Pinot getting cheered on by all the waifus on the side for the High Point Racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Avery Hart knowing what he has to do to hold on to the lead and demonstrating it so far. And for Daniel Pinot, he knows what he's got to do. He's got to run down that multicolored Porsche in front of him. 2 cars up the road currently with the lap down Ferrari of Carlos Sierra in between them.
It looks like yellow flag coming out for Daniel Bequero in our LMDH. So the troubles are still going on as drivers are trying to move up and down the order. So at current though, we're going and seeing a little bit of nutrition coming in. Who's got the run? Who has got the stamina to go around? Because with 35 minutes to go around this circuit, starts to feel a lot more than just an hour. You are working incredibly hard. You're incredibly busy, not just with the circuit, but with the cars out there. Multi-class racing is no easy feat. Daytona, there's a lot more room to play with compared to Long Beach, but we're also getting close to getting our first round of pit stops done and dusted, and drivers will have to consider that option. They will have to say, right, when am I getting into the box, and do I want to get there when it gets busy? Because that is an absolute nightmare to deal with, as there is a 60% fuel limit on these cars. You're going to have to really think when you get into the box, and do you really want to follow everyone into the box, or would you rather have a clear line? Either way, when you come out of pit lane, you're into traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're in the faster classes, you're looking at perhaps if you're coming up on a cluster of slower car traffic, you may want to dive into the pits, and so that way you don't end up wasting time behind them. But I do want to give a shout out to the 666 of Edward Delano. He is our biggest mover in any class at the moment. He is up 8 positions so far, and with how much chaos there has been going on so far this race, to be able to stay out of trouble and make up 8 spots in 26 minutes is nice job for him. So I just want to give a shout out to him. But Scott Farrell, he's 7 spots. He's our second biggest mover in his number 42 McLaren. And there is the 666, the initial D liveried Mercedes, as he's got the 24 of Jason Blaine coming through behind him, and being our biggest mover with a missing front bumper. Even more kudos for that.
I was going to say, he's got the new aero package put in for the Mercedes to cool it down, especially on a nice hot day here, but having to get a little bit elbows out as well, not having an easy time out there. And as I said, just being a top mover and shaker is absolutely brilliant. Not an easy thing to do out there, but another Mercedes lurking in the background, also suffering a nose problem. Christian Roos trying to go and reclaim the 3rd place as he's hunting down Adolf Perez in the Porsche ahead of him. The BMW just trying to keep it all together. Everyone trying to move, but take a look. Meatball flag for our race leader. Adrian Pabula is now having a meatball flag. That is a nightmare affair. What on earth has gone on with the car? And he's going to have to pull into the pit lane, and out of the lead, it just creates a monster concertina effect. I don't think he was able to get into the box.
He was not, and it, as you said, created a stack up behind him as there were cars taking evasive acts and exiting the hairpin there. But I had just seen it on my side screen that it looks like he might have contacted the tire wall coming out of one of the turns, and perhaps he picked up his meatball flag from there. We'll have to see if it got flagged in our race control to be able to go take a look at it. But certainly, I'm sure he's cursing at iRacing's damage model at the moment, as that car does not look to be off the pace. Certainly just using my eyeball measurements, not being able to see telemetry or anything like that, and having to serve a meatball flag within 3 laps so you don't get disqualified is definitely going to hurt him. But with 31 minutes to go, I do wonder if maybe he's perhaps within the pit window to be able to make the one stop, use the fast repair, get tires and fuel, and be good to go for the rest of the race. So maybe it's not the end of the road for Adrian.
It's going to be a hard push, but that's going to help Landon Stewart going and deciding, hey, there's an option here. There's a chance, as he's closed up at a rate of knots. And even over in our virtual grandstands, lots and lots of support coming in for a variety of drivers and teams. DNR getting the flags flown high as well. And it's wonderful to see you all out there in the virtual grandstands supporting our drivers, cheering them on as we see Adrian into the pits. That promotes Landon Stewart up to the top. He was able to run long at Daytona, and now it seems like he's going to try it yet again. Perez up into second, Christian Roos up into third. BMW, my personal favorite of the LDMHs, now going and clawing its way up towards the sharp end of the field. It's just a fun little car to drive around, not necessarily the quickest, but it's going to be Ryan Anderson who leads out the LMP2 class, with Lakin Shaw in second place, Andrew Bruce in third. For our GTD Pro, Avery Hart with Eldo Seklin, Matsov Kutsov holds on for third place in the GTD Pro. GTD is Noah Strauss along with Matthew Knoll and Curtis Polisu holding on to third place. So a bit of a shake-up up and down through the order, and everyone going and having a stunning time out there. But I've got to point out that there's not many cars still remaining on the lead lap, as we got a drive-through penalty coming in for Tim Keen in the LDMH cars, and he's lying fourth.
Yeah, Tim Keen getting dinged for avoidable contact penalty there.
Not
as we see Noah Schaus in the Mario liveried car. He's certainly hoping to hop and find the super mushroom.
Got to go and pull out the star if you want to get past the cars ahead of you and really go for the send. However, it's going to be Ryan Frankenberry trying to get elbows out and move forward, as now we've got Perez up into the lead, opening up. Landon Stewart with a meatball flag. Landon in the Acura and it looks like that was against a GT3 car. Landon now into the pits, towed back. Our once winner at Daytona going and landing up with an impact, and it looks like possibly it was a multi-car catch. What on earth happened with our... Was there an LMP2 involved? I saw the GT3 and saw Landon.
There was an LMP2 parked on the side of the road there, but I don't know. There's the LMP2 in front of him. Oh, the Mercedes spins in front. Oh, he just had nowhere to go. Oh, devastating for our race leader, Landon Stewart. Oh, no.
1, 2, 3, 4 cars and 2 separate accidents, unfortunately, as we do see the Mercedes go out of shape. The LMP2 collides with the Ferrari trying to avoid, and that just landed up with a problem. Lucia Tosa going and having the rear of her car impacted by Landon and also by the LMP2 on the way through. That is not what you wanted to have, and unfortunately that has just changed their race completely. And Carlos going and minding out of the way, plows into Lucia, and oh man, that was just a devastating blow to have all 3 classes going and getting in an accident like that. Not often does it happen, but going and switching up the entire race completely. Now let's see how it's all going to work out as drivers filtering into the pits. 27 minutes and 48 seconds to go. Everyone trying to give it that final push, but now comes the question. Who can keep going? Who's got the stamina? And is there going to be that little gremlin on the shoulder saying, guys, I think we should back off. I think we should be a little bit more cautious. But that also makes it dangerous. If you get overly cautious, you slow down a bit too much, and suddenly you can have the drivers right into the rear view, or you're not going fast enough on the exit and can land up with drivers pushing you out towards the wall. It is just such a balancing act around the circuit. And this is why I love street circuits, because it favors the brave and the bold, but will go and take a bite out of your ego if you get too confident.
Yeah, absolutely. And with all of the chaos that has happened, it has spread out of the classes. Our closest battle that we saw on the picture-in-picture there with Curtis Poliso and his McLaren chasing down the number 28 of Matthew Knoll, as we see Todd Skilton having a spin and he recovers. Did he get some help there?
Under braking over the curb, and
he did.
Yep.
Naughty.
A little bit of
drive through a car in front of you, unfortunately.
No, and got limped to the wall, so not quite the way he wanted to. Perez,
and that looked like it was happening right in front of our now race leader Adolfo Perez as well, so a scary moment for him. Christian Ruiz, this is a normal scheduled pit stop. We haven't been able to say that in the race so far today. Everybody else that has made a trip down pit lane, I suspect, was for reasons not of their doing.
Well, it's kind of an evolution of the plan. Andrew Bruce getting black flag. You know, when you ever come to Long Beach, Brian, you come to Long Beach with your plan. You then put the car on the grid and you tear up that plan, you go to plan B. Then you fire up the car, then you go to plan C. You put it in gear, you go to plan Z. By the end of it, you're starting to work with algebra to figure out what your next plan is before you even get to the flag. But how's this one? Black flag for Andrew Bruce. Third in the LMP2s. He's got a drive through, plus he's got his pit stop to still be done. It's going to throw him out of the top three, and unfortunately, not exactly what he wanted to have. As our leaders into the pits now, Adolf Perez getting himself sorted out. Those penalties racking up quite a bit, and drivers starting to feel that there's a bit of a problem. But that being said, we got to talk about some of the prizes on the line here tonight for our winners. Jaimo going and giving an incredible prize of a 1-month subscription to the class winners, and that is going to be an absolute great one. Jaimo providing professional sim racing setups used by the High Point Racing drivers and pro drivers alike to go and show off. Plus, they've got a 1-year Jaimo subscription at the end of the season, a random draw. So just by finishing this incredibly hard race, you're in for a prize. Monster Designs giving us all the incredible liveries that you get to see out on circuit, and also going and showing off these liveries. They will be doing a livery giveaway throughout the season to each of the drivers, and that is something you want to keep a very close eye out for. Something new, something fresh out onto the grid. And Admin Box coming and being a part of our show, helping out our operational support, going and giving those penalties, and also helping out with broadcasting. One button press to help you out and putting all the macros into one simple format. Now, Admin Box making life a little bit easier for race control, especially on a circuit like this, where race control is working overtime.
Yeah, before you did the sponsor messages, what you were saying, Stephen, made me remind me of my favorite quote from the Flash TV show, and it says, there's only 4 rules you need to remember. You need to make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, and you throw away the plan.
That perfectly sounds like what it needs to be. I love it. Let's put a pin in that quote, and it forever needs to stay here. Just leave it off onto the side. When we go to our double cams here, seeing Avery Hart and Tim Keen out on track. Tim Keen's profile picture, just want to point out, that's a stock 100 go-kart, which is absolutely incredible to see a stock 100 of past that you don't get to see them too often other than racing in the historic karting scene nowadays, which is Tim, absolutely wonderful to see. He's in the 35 car of our LDMH trying to move up through the order. He's got Corey Patton just ahead of him and just can't get the drive out of the hairpin. It's so difficult to not light up the rear as you make your way through. And Corey giving a quick flash to Noah's house saying, listen, I'm coming through as fast as possible. You might want to be careful here because we're going to keep you rather busy. And he mines out, goes wide, a little bit of a lift, and a clever move to allow the drivers through the fountain, so he has a little bit more breathing room at the moment, just trying to see it through to the end. Everyone hoping to just try and bring their cars towards the end of this race, as this has gone from a sprint race to endurance race to, well, can we make it race? A couple of drivers meeting their end up against the pit wall, others trying to get themselves fixed so they can see it through to the end. And I always stand by the statement, if you see the green, you got to see the checkered. Even if you go through that fast repair, remain in the car, get it fixed, and get back out on track, because you don't know how many points you can save just by finishing a race. And that is absolutely crucial for the HPR IMSA Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Landon Stewart, he had that meatball flag earlier, but he has the car repaired and is back out on track in P7. But for Corey and Tim battling, they were actually 3 wide, passing a GT3 car a couple laps ago here on the front straightaway. So definitely keeping it exciting, but giving respectful racing room as we see our GTD Pro leader Avery Hart make his pit stop down off the jacks, and away he goes. That Porsche number 32 filled up with Sunoco race fuel.
Matsev in second place, also coming out of pit lane. So going and reacting to that, Federico Callio going into the pits, but Daniel Pino up into second, possibly going up towards first place, as we do see on shot that Mercedes closing up at a rate of knots, and Avery having to really get on the power early on to try and run away. And now Daniel is going and putting the pressure on, looking for every opportunity to go up for the lead of this race. And it's going to be a big chance for the two of them to really have a stunning go. But did see a little bit of a bumper of a Mercedes lying on the ground there.
Yeah, that looked like the 666's front bumper again after he had just gotten into the pits and gotten everything reattached. It has come loose again, so... Oh, as we see Daniel Pino smack with the left rear there. But for Avery Hart, he's coming out of the pits with slightly cool tires. We did not see him go up on Jack's... Oh, Tim Keen. Oh, goodness, no.
Tagged by the 5.
That explains where the bumper came from.
Not what you wanted to see, and was tagged by the 5 in our LMDH car, unfortunately going in, creating a little bit of a problem, and has now spun everyone into disrepair. Not what you want to have. And unfortunately, Corey Patton, a drive through for incident points coming into play, as well as Avery Hart trying to move his way up, with Daniel Pino once again putting a huge amount of pressure as they fight out for the lead of the GTD Pro. This is what the concern is right towards the end of the race. Everyone's starting to get tired, and those little mistakes come out, and it has some big repercussions. Something you actually mentioned at the start of this race. It's about patience, but it's also about just outliving the circuit versus versing the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see there for Avery Hart, he did not take tires, but Daniel Pino did take tires. And so even though Avery Hart is not necessarily going to have the cold tire lap I would expect with taking 4 new tires, his tires will have cooled off, especially on that long pit road that we have here. And so for Daniel Pino, he's trying to take advantage of that, being up to temperature with his fresh tread underneath that 477 Mercedes, and he is all over the back of the number 32 Porsche.
The High Point Racing waifus now trying to put a bit of pressure. Avery Hart hoping just to fold the mirrors in and turn the screen off, does not want to see it. And we've got another accident. Carlos Ruiz Padilla getting a meatball flag. Unfortunately, not going to be too happy on that one. Avery Hart now trying to brake as late as he can in towards the fountain, really trying to keep it all together and hunting down every opportunity. So we've got little fights all around the circuit, every driver trying to figure out what is going to be needed to really give it their way to the top. And at the moment for our LDMHs, we've only got 5 of the runners still out there. Unfortunately, a number of them going and getting taken out early on and having to retire. So a couple of drivers. Oh, that is a GT3 pointing the wrong direction. One of our Chevrolets not having a great time there. Jacob Grupp trying to move forward and see what he can do.
Yeah, going back to Landon Stewart, we were talking about him earlier. Just through sheer attrition, he has found himself back up into the top 5 in LMDH.
There we go. Just keep yourself going, keep yourself circulating. Take a look at Federico Callio. Looks around the outside, looked around the inside, decides it's not going to be his case out there in the Mercedes. Oh, up against the wall. That is a front left suspension. You can successfully now go right. Just make sure that you go through another oval. But you got to go the opposite way now. Ooh. And Todd Skellington, our first disqualified driver out of the race. He's been picking up those incident points and looks like got to the limit and has been disqualified out of the race. And that is one Chevrolet that's parked and a driver and team not going to be too impressed, thinking what do they need to do to come back fighting at Spa.
Yeah, it looks like according to race control, he was disqualified for persistent unsafe rejoins.
Well, it's slightly problematic. Something the team will be looking into of what can we do to try and alleviate that. And it's rather unfortunate to go landing up with it. Unfortunately, sport like this.
Oh,
and
Daniel Pino's sticking the nose in.
Oh man, Avery Hart having to really work overtime there to try and keep a car well alive. But unfortunately, take a look at how much Daniel has lost time for not getting that pass done and dusted. He is miles back and having to just reclaim the position. Down into second gear, late on the anchors, bringing it right to the wall, in towards the fountain. And he's having to now just try and pick up every little bit of piece that he can to move forward, with Avery Hart more than happy to stay at the sharp end of the field.
I do have to say, I have to tip my hat to both Avery and Daniel there. If we go back and watch a replay of that, that looked like a mutual respect thing. Daniel stuck the nose kind of in. Avery said, okay, I will give you room and not chop your nose off. And Daniel and Kyan said, I will not force the issue and will back off and let you be able to exit the corner in peace. And even though there is a gap of 7/10, I suspect that given Daniel's pace to be able to catch Avery in the first place, he will be right back to the rear end of that 32 Porsche in no time at all there. But respectful driving from both of our GTD Pro race contenders, as we see Nicholas Lanciers there. He's got a very wounded Rebellion painted LMP2 car. Unfortunately, he cannot go any further and has to wait for the tow truck to bring him back to pit lane.
And also another Ferrari in the wall as we were keeping an eye on Matsev, who's trying to move up the order. He's in third, but he's got Aldo second on him. Carlos Sierra was that Ferrari hooked into the wall, was able to rejoin by the looks of it. But here is Nicholas Lancer, where the Rebellion, well, got rebellious, coming out of the corner and, just slid bang against the side. Well, if you move the chassis to the right-hand side, it means left-hand corners is a bit easier. Unfortunately, the drivetrain didn't quite like that as well. And here's what happened to Carlos. All over the curbs, lost the rear end, and a bit of a knock to the nose. Had to wait for the field to come through before he could rejoin and having to fight his way through. Kenneth Cloden trying to move up through the order. Oh, clipping the wall on the exit. Just through that hairpin, having a tough time out there. You gotta get it 100% right, otherwise it's gonna hurt. And our drivers now starting to feel it. With 13 minutes to go, drivers needing to really work out what's the game plan. And I love to bring this up because in sim racing we do have physical problems that come in. one, you start to build up of lactic acid in your legs, especially when you're running load cell pedals. Your left leg, you start to get lactic acid building up in your calf. It does get that little bit of a cramping feeling. You're going to have to work your way through it, especially on a circuit like this. Lactic acid building up in the arms. Start to feel pain in the elbow joints, the wrists, and in the shoulders as you're working overtime on a circuit like this. And once again, depending on your physical condition, it can catch up to you. And an hour's race suddenly becomes feeling like a 24-hour enduro instead of a sprint. Ooh, parking lot at our hairpin.
Steven, I feel like you just called me out.
Life of a paramedic, we call everyone out. That's what I could say. Including ourselves, sadly.
Well, who can make fun of you if not yourself, right?
There we go. There we go. That's why the pros are out there. And we did ask if there can be a special class for us. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a class that they can. I don't know what's below at.
I believe we get the special P provisional bumper sticker if we're below AM.
Okay. All right. Learner driver of note, the ribbon on the back. We're doing laps in the pit lane sort of thing. Well, with that being said, Eric Hammond trying to move up through the order as he's having a little bit of contact there. Federico Callio fighting him left, right, and center. The LMP2 is also slicing through the field. And it looks like Callio not completely done from the fight. Looked towards the inside line. Thought maybe 3 wide was an option. Couldn't quite get it done. Now having the LMP2 slow through the corners, not helping him out. The GT3 is far better on the brakes and having to really think outside the box. Brian, this is getting rather busy out there, and I think quite a few drivers are trying their utmost hardest, but there's definitely a few mutters. You start to sound like Muttley underneath that helmet from Dick Dastardly's whole cartoon, the Wacky Racers, more commonly known with Muttley.
Absolutely, as you saw there, going side by side through several corners and having to fight to keep it off the wall just as much as they were fighting to keep it off themselves. And here come a couple LMP2s to spoil the fun that they were having and split them up going through the hairpin. But as we see Aldo Secklin and his Ferrari is trying to chase down the 43 of Matyev Kistyev. This is a battle for the final step on the GTD Pro podium.
Versus Aston Martin, who is gonna have the run so far. Avery Hart in the Porsche has got mid-engines on the front, and it's 2 front engines. Daniel Pinot in the Mercedes. That's holding on with the Aston Martin, but can he hold back Aldo, who will have the advantage in through the corners? That mid-engine is an absolute monster. The Ferrari is one of these cars that's reliable around the circuit. The Aston Martin, newer to the iRacing service in the GT class, does pick up a bit of understeer towards the end of its race, but also he's got a little bit of a tow from the 21 just ahead of him and trying to utilize that Mercedes to help claw back through the field. And that is going to be an interesting case as Cisco Rodriguez in the 21 Mercedes laps down is just acting as a little bit of a pull, and it's just keeping Muntsev a little bit alive. So Matt's going to be quite happy on that one, just to have that tow. The question is it fouling him up through the corners?
Yeah, you're definitely seeing where the 2 cars are making their time differently around this course. The mid-engine layout of the Ferrari compared to the front engine Aston Martin.
Well, that was most certainly unplanned, and unfortunately that killed the drive on Matt's car. And immediately Aldo down the inside, will be on the outside heading into turn 1. They are close. It is wing mirror to wing mirror. This is getting a bit rough, but both drivers giving nothing to chance. Eventually Aldo managing to get on by, but my heavens, they were adjusting the side mirrors of one another's cars there. Not often you get to do that without running into a problem. And we do see Lando Stewart trying to make his way at the back, but holy moly, that was a drive, and that was a lot of trust between drivers.
Yeah, trust not just between their fellow competitor on track, but also their internet connections, that they didn't allow netcode to play a factor there, as unfortunately I've been the victim of way too many times to admit. We'll see if Matvey can catch back up to the 46 Ferrari of Aldo Secklin and reclaim that final step on the podium, as we've got just under 7.5 minutes left in this race.
And the parking lot starts again and through the hairpin. And it's going to be Landon Stewart that was ahead, that caused the parking lot. Aldo, now our leader of the race overall and in the LDMH class. 4 seconds up the road from Christian Roos out in the BMW. And Adrian Pabula currently running in third. Christian, the only runner in the top 3 that is not a Porsche, and it's going to do the same as what Landon Stewart was able to do at Daytona with the Acura, now just trying to keep alive. For 6 minutes and 48 seconds to go, I would think the drivers are on a hard push to try and make up positions, but also there's going to be a flip of a switch here of just keep these cars alive, just keep it alive, because one impact in the wall here, and that is race done.
Yeah, speaking of pushing hard, you saw there from Matvey, he was getting sideways coming out of that corner in his Aston Martin as he's pushing hard, trying to use every ounce of traction he's got left in that car to get back up to the bumper of Aldo Secklin in front of him. As we see Ryan Frankenberry in the 420 Porsche, he's running a comfortable 5th place. He's about 8 seconds back of that battle for P3, but he's got 15 seconds in hand over Jacob Graub.
Incredible racing out on circuit. 43 laps completed, and I'm sure drivers are feeling like they've done 172 laps right now, just trying to keep it all together. A circuit that is extremely demanding. I would say on a list of difficult circuits, Long Beach is one of these tracks that I would put heading on the same list as Nordschleife, as you got to remember where you are, in the flat circuit does make it rather difficult and very unforgiving with those close walls. As a street circuit, this is one to really keep an eye out for, and one of the very few street circuits, and if I believe this was the very first street circuit that came to the iRacing service. Long Beach being an incredible one, was released at the same time as the iRacing Ligier LMP3. And so far for multi-class action with LDMH, LMP2 and GT3, it's been throwing in some great racing. Federico Callio still in for the fight against Jacob Grubb at the moment, holding on for 6th and 7th position. Our GTDs still showing a almighty chance, and at the moment it is Federico trying to hunt down every opportunity to get past that McLaren, not able to get the run, and really getting sick and tired of reading Castrol on the back of that car. Dives to the inside. Can he make it stick over the curbing? Couldn't quite get the drive. Immediately Jacob, solid defensive line through the left-hander, now into the hairpin, and unfortunately Callio runs out a little bit too wide on entry, and that cost him time down the straightaway.
Yeah, you saw Federico swing wide there, trying to get a better exit out of the hairpin than Jacob in front of him, but unfortunately I could hear a little bit of wheel spin off of the back of that Mercedes, so a little bit undone by the lack of traction on the back end of his 41 Mercedes. But disappointing day for Federico. As you can see, he started P3 originally, and he's dropped 4 spots, currently running at P7, so he's trying to do a little bit of damage control in this championship. It is only the 2nd round of this championship, but for a lot of these drivers, any little point that they can get, as they have to dodge the spinning Daniel Newman Racing Mercedes there. Nobody collected him, as he does get around the Castrol McLaren.
Good move there. That was actually Cisco Rodriguez in the 21. So Daniel Newman Racing getting some data on how to warm up the tires extensively by hooking it sideways. LMP2 is now going to be blasting past with a flash of the lights, and also trying to make their way into the braking zone. Not what Federico wanted to have. He holds the racing line, being a little bit of a bully, saying, listen, this is my line, especially here. You guys have got a straightaway, as a huge Constantino effect once again kicking up. And Andrew Bruce having to really go and think about what is he going to do to get past Kenneth Cloden ahead of him. trying to close up Kenneth, caught out by Calio, and now going and get clean pass. But let's see if Kenneth is going to be able to have a solid run. So great drive out in through the fountain, but not quite where he wanted it to happen. 2 minutes and 32 to go. Risky moves means that you are going to put yourself out of this race, and it's all about perseverance down to the very end. It's survival instead of a race.
Yeah, Andrew Bruce is probably swearing at Federico there, hoping that he would have let him by on the front straightaway, but was on no obligation to do so. And realistically, through that first sector, you don't lose too much time in an LMP2. They do about the same speed as the GT3 cars. So as frustrating as it is, he'll just have to wait for the straightaway to get by him. But for Adolfo Perez, he's got 5 seconds in hand over Christian Ruiz. And as you said, he's just looking to clock off laps and let the time wind down without any dramas for him and his 92 Porsche 963.
Well, sitting when he crosses the line, 47 laps completed in this race, and on a stellar drive of note. Part of the very few that are still on the lead lap, as right down to Landon Stewart is the last of our cars on the lead lap. So right down to 5th place of our LDMH. Everyone else is going a lap down or more. But so far, Landon, just by perseverance, seeing it, seeing the green, seeing the checker, is the plan. 1 minute and 8 to go, and Adolf hoping to just keep a stellar drive. He will be closing up to Landon Stewart, just up ahead of him, seeing that Acura and going to put him a lap down as well. I don't think Landon's going to argue too much on that one. Might be a little lift and let him go as they get caught up behind the GT3s, and this should be running on to their last lap. So Perez has done a stellar job to just keep it all together from start to finish. Christian Ruiz, though, I'm happy to see the BMW up into second. Would have been nice to see the Acura, but it's going to be Adrian Pabula, who landed up also with a problem in the race early on, holding on to 3rd place, 2 places down from where he started, but is still out there pushing as hard as he can. Ryan Anderson, first of our LMP2s, also having a stellar run. He's going to have the leaders coming around him, and you can see the cars already slowing up, waiting for Adolf to come on by, just saying, come, just get round me, 4 seconds to go, as they charge up to the final corner, swing their way through. Adolf looking to keep it all together, and after a hard-fought race, Adolf Perez will take the overall victory and take the LDMH win ahead of Christian Ruiz. Adolf Perez started 6th, ends in 1st. Christian Ruiz started in 3rd, moved up to 2nd. What a race, what a chance. He's going to be absolutely happy to see that 3rd is going to be Adrian Pabula if they can get that car across the line. Avery Hart comes across. He will be winning out our GTD Pro with Daniel Pino and Aldo Sicklin in 3rd for the GTD Pro. Great run from him. For our LMP2, it's Ryan D. Anderson, followed by Laken Shaw, Chris Newman holding on to that 3rd place. GTD is Noah South, Curtis Poliso, and Donald Ingram Jr. rounding out our pack. What a race, what a chance. And as the rest of the field now just trying to get it to the line, Brian, it has been an incredible one. I think a huge sigh of relief from every single one of their drivers. 48 laps in this race.
Yeah, you see Ryan Anderson, one of the last cars on track to finish. He effectively got a 1-lap separation from the rest of the LMP2s just by proxy of Lincoln Shaw finishing behind our overall leader, Adolfo Perez. But nevertheless, a race win is a race win. Doesn't matter if it's by 1 lap or a 1/10 of a second. Not to paraphrase Dom Toretto there. But a fantastic race from everybody. Certainly much more attrition filled than these drivers probably would have liked. But that is Long Beach in a nutshell. You're battling the track as much as you're battling the cars on the track with you.
Absolutely incredible run, and our drivers having a stellar one. For round 2 of the High Point Racing League IMSA Championship, And with all the drivers quite happy about that, let's go through our finishing order. This is our LDMH. It's Adolfo Perez, Christian Ruz, Adrian Pavula going and holding on to third. Andres Quevedo in fourth, and Landon Stewart rounding out our top 5. Moving on to our LMP2, it's Ryan Anderson, Laken Shaw, and Chris Newman onto the top 3. Kenneth Cloden in fourth, and Andrew Bruce rounding out our top 5. But Brian, you've got our GTs.
Yeah, GTD Pro was taken by Avery Hart tonight, followed closely by Daniel Pino and Aldo Secklin rounding out your podium. Matvey Kustov couldn't recover. He had to settle for P4 tonight, and we got Ryan Frankenberry rounding out our top 5 in GTD Pro. Over in GTD, that was taken by Noah Schaus in the Mario Mercedes. He was followed by Curtis Poliso and Donald Ingram Jr. on the podium. Matthew Knoll and Gavin Cambray round out your top 5.
What an incredible run. And with that being said, we're getting the drivers climbing out of the cars, wiping the sweat off their brows, and will be coming and having a chat to us here in the commentary booth, and can't wait to just get a sense of what went on and how they're feeling after such a incredible battle for round 2 right here on Pine Avenue at Long Beach. And our drivers had to really think outside of the box. And it does look like we've got Avery Hart, who is first out of the car, ready to come and have a chat to us. The High Point Racing going and having a stellar run in his GTD, as we see some of the beautiful shots of our LDMH, LMP2s, and GTDs making their way through the hairpin down at the bottom of the final corner. What a time to be alive. Let's bring in Avery Hart to come and have a chat to us. Our proper charge up Porsche. Avery, welcome to the commentary box, and what a race to go and put yourself P1 in class. How are you feeling?
Scared.
I mean,
there's a lot of wreckage.
Fair enough. For the GTD Pro, how was it out there? Just getting absolutely swamped by the field, having the LDMHs around you, the LMP2s, you're trying to navigate your way through traffic. I'm sure your eyes were on the mirrors, trying to focus on your lines. Take us through how it was as a GTD driver on one of the toughest circuits out on road course racing here in the Imsa series.
Yeah, I felt like I was playing a jump scare game for a second. I was scared shitless. Every corner, I didn't know what was going to be there. Yellow flag, go around a corner. I didn't know if the car was going to be stopped. Didn't know if it was going to be in front, left, right, upside down. Yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, it was very tough. It was not easy. I will tell you that. As a GTD driver, going around with the other traffic and even almost having pace close to the LMPs, it was scary.
Well, it was incredible to see you out there, and we're going to be now stepping away from the street circuit, heading to Spa. You've extended some points in the championship. What's the game plan heading into Spa as our week 3?
Don't die. I think that's my plan. Spa is probably my worst track. I know for a lot of other drivers, it's probably their favorite. Unfortunately for me, it is a great track. I just don't have pace at it. So I'm going to just try to survive and be lucky enough to hit podium.
Going to be a great one to see how the drivers work through. Well, before we let you go, anything you would like to say to the High Point Racing, the drivers and teams out there tonight, and to everyone in the background, but most importantly, out in the virtual grandstands right here at Racer Nexus?
Yeah, I want to shout out High Point. I want to shout out you guys, Racer Nexus, for putting on a great broadcast. I want to shout out Daniel Newman Racing. I want to shout out Pino for coming in, for coming in second. He was almost there, and it was great. But yeah, this is a great race league, and I'm excited for all the drivers in the league.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff. And once again, everyone, congratulations on your victory in the GTD Pro standings. Proper run on his part to get all the way to the top, and honestly, a stellar charge. But that being said, Brian, you've managed to get hold of Ryan Anderson, our LMP2 winner here for round 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Anderson joining us in the booth here. Talk us through what your experience was like on the street fight out there at Long Beach. I know certainly LMP2 is a challenge. You guys have the same pace as GT3s at times. What was it like having to pass traffic, but also keep your mirrors in check for faster traffic coming up on you?
Real quick, is my mic working?
Absolutely.
All right, for sure. Great. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I was having a blast out there. It was a fun race for me. It was fun kind of being like the middle class, kind of having to navigate traffic, but also having traffic pass you with the GTP cars as well. Really, I mean, it got off to a good start, qualified well, started P3. The green light kind of went at a weird time for the LMP2 cars because it went as soon as we went through the hairpin. And when you're an odd number like P3, you're on the inside. So everyone on the inside got a really good start. So I moved up to P2. And I think Jan, who was in front, did end up crashing. And I took the lead from there and just kind of kept it. But as far as the racing goes, you know, I was racing my own race. Wasn't really trying to go for anything crazy. The pace was really good. Setup on the car was really nice. And just had fun, really, just managing my own race with the pit stop as well. Just making sure everything went nice and perfect, didn't get any penalties, and ended up getting a win out of it. So it was a good race.
Absolutely. To finish first, you have to first finish, and you certainly excelled at that tonight. But as we turn our attention to next week and move to the flowing hills of Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, what is your expectations or game plan going into next week?
Well, with 2 wins now, expectations for myself will be high. Gonna try to continue this streak and continue fighting and get these points for the championship. I will be honest, Spa has always been a doozy for me, so we'll see what happens there. But I think it will definitely be a lot more be a lot cleaner than this weekend because it's a bigger track, more spread out, so you probably see less incidences, but you'll definitely see some more aggressive racing for sure. But but for here at Long Beach, had a blast. You know, this is actually one of my favorite tracks. I love these kind of tight technical tracks like Long Beach, so I was actually really looking forward to racing this weekend. So yeah,
absolutely. I echo your sentiments as well. I love racing around Long Beach in the LMP2. But before we let you go for the night, any folks you want to give a shout out to?
Well, shout out to High Point for putting on a great show. Shout out to the race controls people dealing out penalties and stuff. They were working really hard with that all race. I know we didn't have that at Daytona, and we were able to get it this weekend. So hopefully there were a lot of stuff being handled better with race control and stewarding this weekend. Appreciate you guys for broadcasting Racer Network to all the people watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a show out of it. So looking forward to next week, and I'll see you guys there.
Well, congratulations again. That's Ryan Anderson, our LMP2 winner tonight here at Long Beach.
Race, what a round. I mean, this has been one of the most exciting rounds thus far, but we're only in round 2 here at the HPR Imsa Championship. But Brian, your closing thoughts on this race and full thoughts to what we can expect for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think the chaos was what we expected. It's certainly a hallmark of Long Beach, whether you're a fan of it or not. It seems to be a constant factor. And as we move to Spa, it's going to be chaos of a different sort. You've got multi-class action, but instead of tight confines, you have drastically different closing speeds that drivers are going to have to contend with. And so it's going to be quite exciting to watch. As Ryan alluded to, it's a much wider track, much bigger track, so slightly easier to deal with multi-class conditions, but the chaos factor I don't think really ratchets down. And from there it just gets to be even more exciting. We've got some interesting races coming up with Watkins Glen, Monza, Indianapolis, just stalwart tracks of road racing. And so I'm expecting a fantastic season to carry on for our drivers here in the High Point Racing IMSA series.
Going to be a great one. And folks, go and join up here at High Point Racing League. We love to have new drivers. Also, for veterans out there, we cater for all classes. But that being said, we got to say thank you to the drivers, to the teams, to our racing stewards, everyone behind the scenes making this all possible, and our sponsors, Hymo, professional setups used by professionals, made by professionals to help you get your way to the top. Also giving us a 1 month Hymo subscription to each of the race winners here tonight, and also at the end of the season have a random draw for a 1 year's Hymo subscription. Second to that, we've got Monster Designs, custom race liveries to go out on the car. So stand out from the rest of the pack with Monster Designs, professional designs and branding for drivers and teams. And at the end of the season, have livery giveaways. Well, during the entire season, they got livery giveaways, and that's something you really want to keep onto it. And a special thank you, I think has worked overtime, to Admin Box for the operational support behind the scenes, keeping track of penalties, issuing penalties, and making it a little bit easier here on iRacing. It's just a button press away to move yourself forward. Whether you're a driver, whether you're in operations, whether you're in broadcast, Admin Box has you kept together. And that is that pretty much done and dusted for the High Point Racing League Round 2 right here at Long Beach. A massive thank you to everyone out in the virtual grandstands for the incredible support. It's lovely to see you out there, and a special thank you has to go to our commentator Brian Zinn, and also Rob Campbell on production and cameras, and also to Track Cam Gourmet giving us these incredible camera angles on a beautiful circuit. Folks, it's been a fantastic time. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like icon, and let us know what your favorite part of the race was. What was your biggest moment, and what do you expect from the season? Folks, it's been a great one from the entire Racer Nexus family. We'd like to say a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.